I haven't thought much about this. I'm not really sure where this is going, but I hope I get somewhere. Welcome to today's topic. And I had a very short conversation about this particular thing. We end up having a long conversation, but about this particular thing last night I had with some stranger. But in that moment, we sort of got to an agreement that one of the things that is leading to us being held back, not just as young people, but as young black people, and not just as young black people in South Africa, but as young black people in Africa. Maybe we didn't get that far, but essentially that's what it is we're scared. If you're in the middle class, there's so much for you to lose. There's so much privilege that you have. There's so much convenience in which you live, and for you to forego that for the pursuit of a better life for everyone, for the pursuit of a better life for all of posterity becomes very scary. For you to stand up and be a loud voice, for you to stand up and be somewhat rebellious. That is loud. For you to stand up and represent people, it's scary for you because there's so much that you have gained, there's so much that you have that you think about what you could lose. I mean, of course, you could lose your life, and that, of course, is a fear in itself. But I think more so what drives us is the fear of what could I lose in terms of the things that I have, in terms of the conveniences that I enjoy on a daily basis. If I am thrown away from my job because, okay, you're representing us badly, you are speaking stuff that does not speak to what we are as a company, you are now then isolated and left alone. And as human beings, we are not lone creatures. We are social beings. Now, that being chucked out, being deserted, is something that scares you. The possibility of being chased away or being kept out of whatever circle you might be in or you believe you're in is scary. And I think at a larger stage, at a larger level, this also goes as far as our leaders that we're so connected to the rest of the world. We're getting so much in the way of conveniences, in the way of partnerships, and a lot. Of course, it's quite exploitory. Exploitory. I think that's the way to say it. In that, a lot of the African countries are being exploited, but we feel a huge dependence on these first world countries, and therefore it becomes so difficult for us to make radical decisions that are going to lead us to perhaps a difficult short-term era, but perhaps a better long-term era. Because sure, in the beginning, because there's so much of the connectivity of the interrelations of the international world that we're going to lose, probably it's going to be difficult for us to have to create new systems and develop new strategy and develop new platforms and develop new environments in which we can prosper. But then after that, then perhaps we could start to prosper. But then that short period is going to be a period of difficulty. There's probably going to be war. There's most probably going to be a lot of bloodshed. There's probably going to be a lot of hunger. There's already a lot of hunger now, but there's probably going to be more. And for those of us who are just further away from the hunger right now, who are just further away from the cold right now, who are just further away from the huge, dangerous lives that other people have to live. Hugely dangerous lives that other people have to live. It becomes scary for us to imagine us possibly ending up in that sort of era. I mean, especially now we look at some of the wars that have broken out in other parts of the countries, and that stuff scares us because you're thinking, I'll be living here, chilling, watching my TV, and next thing there's an explosion outside, like we're being bombed. We're scared of that. But at the end of the day, we have to realize, we have to at least come to the realization that without that sacrifice, without us accepting that the only way that things get better, the only way that posterity prevails, and the only way that all of posterity gets to live a better life and gets to have better opportunities is if we sacrifice a lot of what we have built. If we sacrifice a lot of what we have, if we sacrifice a lot of, and I say a lot and it sounds like it's a lot, but actually it's a little. It's actually a little that we have, but it feels like a lot because to us it's everything. But there's actually so much more that is there. There's actually so much there to be taken. There's actually so much more to be explored and exploited for the betterment of all of us, and not just all of us as a community, all of us, not only just as a country, but all of us as a continent. That is how vast and incredibly massive the expanse of our wealth goes. But if we don't recognize it, if we don't realize it, if we don't wake up and start to say, no, 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 we're gonna draw the line here. And we're not gonna do things differently. We're not gonna do things our way. As painful as this first few 5, 10, maybe even 50 years are gonna be, 100 years from now, posterity will speak of us in a different light. Posterity will think of us in a different way. And they'll say, those guys did it. Those guys paved the way for us to get to where we are. We, as the middle class of Africa, middle class of South Africa, had our way paved for us by certain people who have had to go through a lot of sacrifices. I know I can speak because my father himself had to go through a lot of sacrifices in order for me to be where I am. For me to decide that I shall sacrifice no more because the sacrifices have been done already. For me to decide to turn a blind eye and decide not to see the issues, the troubles, the the problems that we have. For me to decide to turn a blind eye to the suffering. For me to decide to not use all the knowledge that I have gathered. For me to decide to not use all the intuition, all the innovation that I have. For me to decide not to use all the spirits and all the fights that I have inside me to fight for something better, to work for something better, to strive to build something better, not just better for me, but better for all of posterity. Because it is very important that we realize that in this world, we are not lone beings. And as much as we can probably pair ourselves up as those privileged people, we start to suffer from those unprivileged or underprivileged people who also want to have a slice, who also want to have just a sense of dignity about their lives, because we have to protect ourselves from them. I would like posterity not to have to protect themselves from each other, because a human being should not have to necessarily protect themselves from another human being. We have to protect ourselves from snakes. We have to protect ourselves from elephants, but no need for me to protect myself from another human being, because as human beings, we should at least have our best interest at heart, and we should work together to build a better future. But for us to do that, at this point, we need to fight. And our fights need to have sacrifice, and not that we need to die. I hope that we don't die, but I understand that some people might have to die. I might have to die. We're all going to die anyway. This is not about death. Why am I focusing on it? All I'm saying is we need to stop. We need to realize that so much rests on our shoulders, so much weight rests on our shoulders, as much as a lot of people in the past have borne the weights of liberating a people on their shoulders. Those who have fought for us today to be where we are, they had to sacrifice a lot. And we need to understand that we need to sacrifice a lot as well. As much as it's much easier perhaps for us to just live and have everything be easy, it is much more necessary and much more important for us to realize how much sacrifice we have to do, how much we have to sacrifice in order for the future to be better. So if there's anything that I'd like for you to pick up from this short episode, is that we need to have courage. I understand that we're fearful. I'm scared too. I'm scared shitless. But we need to have courage. We need to be brave. We need to stand up. And despite the fear, despite what we might possibly lose, despite all the threats, we need to stand up and fight. Fight economically, fight politically, fight geopolitically, fight philosophically. I might be running out of fight, but we need to fight. And we need to get things right. We need to fight for the human being. We need to fight for the African. We need to fight for the future African. And we need to fight for all of our African posterity to have opportunities to create a better future for their posterity, which will be our posterity. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I made some sense here.